I originally wanted to make a video today talking about what I hoped we'd hear from Asha Sharma at the Xbox event coming up next Sunday. But actually, in the last day or so, it's kind of been clouded over by bigger news because Matt Booty went on the the official Xbox podcast yesterday, and made a comment about the fact that competitors' logos would still be present at the Xbox showcase. And I think that kind of disappointed a lot of people because I think the message that Asha had been putting forward ever since she took over as CEO of Xbox, the message that she was putting forward was kind of like Xbox players first. I think, there's a lot of talk around exclusivity. And originally that's what I wanted this video to be about. I wanted to speak about my biggest hope for what Asha Sharma would come out and say at the Xbox showcase. The other day she tweeted saying that she was filming her piece to camera for the Xbox showcase. This is something that we've seen Phil Spencer do, Sarah Bond do on previous showcases, where in general they'll kind of open the showcase, close the showcase. I think sometimes they might speak in between, but in general it's the beginning and the end. With everything that was happening with Xbox over the last however many months since Asha Sharma took over, I felt that it was a very real possibility that she could come on stage for the showcase. Imagine at the end, the one last thing, she comes on and she says, "We're excited to announce that all future first-party Xbox produced games, like, for example, like Forza Horizon 6 and Fable and games like that, to announce that all of those would be platform exclusive." The other day, Xbox launched a thing called Xbox Player Feedback, where, as part of their whole, putting Xbox fans first kind of mantra, they launched this thing where people can publish their ideas for what they'd like to see Xbox do, and they would potentially be put into action. And the top one by a country mile is bring back exclusives. I think pretty much that ever since Asha Sharma took over, that seems to be the narrative that people really want to see, the return of Xbox exclusives. And I do think that there is a possibility that they'll do it. I was hoping that would be the thing to round out the showcase. And I wouldn't completely write it off, but I think with yesterday's comments from Matt Booty saying about how they're going to have competitors' logos on some of the stuff in the showcase, I think it's a possibility in the future, but I think as of right now, it potentially is still business as usual, which is disappointing, to be honest, as an Xbox fan. I mean, to be completely transparent, my history with Xbox is that I got an Xbox 360, had an Xbox One, but felt increasingly frustrated throughout the Xbox One generation, looking at some of the games coming out on PS4 that really spoke to me in terms of my type of game, and I got increasingly frustrated, which led up to, in lockdown in 2020, buying a PS4 the day before The Last of Us 2 came out, which has since, you can see in the poster behind me, which has since become one of my top 3 games. Got a Series X on launch, and then decided to get a PS5, base PS5, and I didn't really use it as my main machine, to be honest. I used it for like stuff like Spider-Man 2, and various other games. I played like Ghost of Tsushima, which I didn't play on the PS4, and various stuff like that. But predominantly my Xbox Series X was still my main console. Leading up to towards the end of last year, where I just felt that I listened to a lot of podcasts, and Ryan McCaffrey on IGN's podcast Unlocked spoke a lot about how it felt that Xbox were constantly stepping on rakes. Every time that they had good news, they would step on a rake, which would be the bad news, and they would just lose all momentum. And I felt that. I was a big fan of Xbox. I've been to Gamescom a few times. I've met Phil Spencer. I've met Sarah Bond. Like, I am genuinely a fan of Xbox. Towards the end of last year, I just decided that I didn't have the confidence to buy a game digitally on the Xbox ecosystem, not knowing what the future of the ecosystem was, essentially. So starting with Battlefield 6, I decided to buy that on PlayStation 5. I then found a really good deal for a second-hand PS5 Pro, which I was toying with getting for GTA 6 anyway. And pretty much since then, I've been using my PS5 Pro as my base machine, and the only thing I've been using the Xbox for is for games that I can only play on Xbox, such as, for example, Forza Horizon 6. So I'm like the prime candidate for the type of person that Asha Sharma needs to win over. And I have been rooting for her. When she was first appointed, I really didn't think that she was going to be good news. The whole narrative of her coming from the AI team at Microsoft, I think, like, I remember sending it to my group chat and just saying, like, this is not looking good. But since then, to be honest, like, she's really, like, proven a lot of the people who doubted her wrong. I think a lot of the stuff that she's been saying has sounded very good. But I think the key is there that it's things that she's saying and not necessarily things that she's doing. I think one of the biggest things about her is that she seems to be very, like, receptive to feedback, which leads me back on to everything that happened yesterday with Matt Booty saying about the logos. So obviously people have been making comments. I've seen people on Twitter saying, it's a good thing that the trailers have various platform logos on, so we know where they're being released and stuff like that. And I get that. I think from my perspective, and I resonate with the people who were annoyed by this and frustrated by this. And the reason is that I feel like if Xbox want to compete, and they've got this whole mantra of, like, the return of Xbox, and it's felt very much, like Asha Sharma has met Seamus Blackley and people like that who were there at the sort of beginning of Xbox, and when all those exclusives and stuff, like, actually did matter. If Xbox want to compete again, they need to be meeting PlayStation where they're at, and PlayStation don't have Xbox logos on their showcase. Obviously, we've got a State of Play coming up next week. I would be surprised if there were any games on there that have an Xbox logo, even if they are multi-platform. I think PlayStation's position is that they try to make out that it is a PlayStation exclusive. And I've seen people online saying that there's games that are multi-platform that they genuinely thought were PlayStation exclusive. I feel that if Xbox want to do this whole return of Xbox and they want to compete with PlayStation again, which is something that they haven't done for quite a few years now, they need to meet PlayStation where they're at. And where PlayStation is at is they don't put competitors' logos on their stuff in their showcases. The showcase is for fans of that ecosystem. And I think that's why it riled people up the wrong way. For example, I remember I was at opening night live a few years ago when they were showing Indiana Jones, and then the one last thing of opening night live was that it was revealed to be coming to PlayStation 4 months or so later. And I remember being sat in the crowd. I mean, at that time I was still at like diehard Xbox, and just thinking like, why would, like, before the game has even come out on Xbox, why would you announce that it was coming out on PlayStation 4 months later? Because people who have a PlayStation are just going to wait. For the last few years, there have been lots of people saying that exclusives don't matter anymore, and that we live in the 21st century, and exclusives, kids are playing on phones now. It's not about platforms, blah, blah, blah. And I think, like, I get it. I get where they're coming from with that. But I think from my perspective, like, when I speak to my friends about this, and like I say, we're all fans of Xbox, I think the analogy that you can use is, like, exclusives still matter. Like, if exclusives didn't matter, then you would see Stranger Things on Amazon Prime, or you would see Clarkson's Farm on Disney Plus, but you don't. And the sole reason why people subscribe to those services or those ecosystems is because of those exclusives. I mean, I'm sure people would subscribe to Netflix without the Netflix originals, but I do think that those are the thing that blew up the platform. So I think, like, to suggest that exclusives are outdated, I think is just not true. There is no point in Xbox being the nice guy if everybody else isn't the nice guy. With Forza Horizon 6 at the minute, for example, they haven't actually said when that's coming out on PlayStation. And for me, as a primary PlayStation user now, that makes me want to buy Game Pass and play Forza Horizon 6, because I don't know how long I'll have to wait. If they said that Forza Horizon 6 was coming out in like a week after the Xbox release, then a lot of people would wait. So I think that's the biggest draw, and I think that is the biggest misstep that Xbox keep making. I think it is very, very clear that the fan base feel that the return of exclusives is important. Just reading what Asha put on Twitter last night. So there was a tweet by Clobril, I think that's how you pronounce his name, saying Xbox will continue to show competitive platform logos at upcoming Xbox Game Showcase. I feel like the bare minimum expectation many had was for Xbox to really focus on their own platform, at least for the time of the showcase. And then Asha replied to this saying, seeing the feedback on logos, it was a miss and I own it. We are talking about how to adjust for future Xbox shows. I personally think it's a shame that they can't adjust it for Sunday's show. I get the fact that it's probably locked in now and there's not a lot they can do. Obviously, the new Modern Warfare 4 has been announced that it's going to be on Switch 2, so that's probably one of the other logos that's going to be shown there. But yeah, I mean, I just think that it's a misstep by Xbox. I would say it's Asher's first misstep, and it's more in line with what we would have seen with previous leadership. It's a shame because the momentum was really building, and as I said, I was ready to make a video where I fully believed that it was a real possibility that at next week's showcase Asher could come out and say, yeah, Gears E-Day is exclusive to the Xbox platform. I don't think she will say that now. I could be wrong, and I'd love to be wrong, but I don't think she will.